welcome back to Shovick Sports Shit. I'm Cory.
I am Austin.
A lot of news happening just today. So the nice part of that is it gives us a little bit extra to talk about. It's not that we didn't have stuff to really talk about, but we had mentioned trades last week or the week before that we knew that they were going to start firing up. Lo and behold, not worried about all the other trades. We were going to get to the one that's kind of important for this, and that's DeAndre Hopkins to the Chiefs. This was a name floated around back over the summer as a possible candidate. This was brought up last year when I believe he was cut and he signed with the Titans. And I believe the Chiefs were in on that. The financials just weren't there. Chiefs basically get the Titans to cover half of the salary. Fifth round turns to a fourth round if he plays 60% of the time, and the Chiefs make a Super Bowl. Honestly, when you look at it, at the end of the day, it's a big win for the Chiefs.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely been a name associated with the last 3 or 4 deadlines and free agency periods and everything with the Chiefs. And I always thought it didn't happen just because, it just didn't seem like the style of receiver that he has ever really been an Andy Reid type. I think at this point where the Chiefs are at, though, they couldn't really be picky. You're down Rice, you're down Brown, you're down Juju for however long. You kind of had to... You knew a move was coming. I thought it was going to be MVS just given how cheap it could be. Didn't cost any draft capital and the familiarity, but you knew a Chiefs had to make a move. It did finally end up being D-Hop. I think, this is going to have a bigger impact than people think, but this isn't going to be like... Chiefs aren't going to change who they are because they have a dude like D-Hop now. We're not just going to drop back and throw, sideline bombs to him or anything. But I think it's a good dude to have around. Some of the young people we have, like Worthy, and if there's still any hope for Sky Moore. Not only has D-Hop always been really good on the field, but you've never heard anything bad about him as a teammate and in the locker room. So just a good veteran dude to have in general. Somebody you can rely on. Obviously health has been a concern the last few years with him, but I don't know. I don't see any bad angle on this trade. So it's good for the Chiefs if they get even an okay D-Hop. Then it's a win, honestly.
I look at it this way: he's not going to burn you. He's not a speed guy, but what he can do is run routes. And those 50-50 balls are more 70-30 when it's him. There's no one in the game that catches the football better than DeAndre Hopkins. I will debate anybody every day about that. I get it. I wouldn't say he's a great receiver, but as far as catching the football goes, he is absolutely great at that. The sideline passes to him are going to be ridiculous because the dude's footwork on a sideline and just knowing where he is and his body control is just going to be next level compared to what Patrick's ever had. Because, let's call it what it is. This is probably the best receiver Patrick has ever had. You can say what you want about Tyreek Hill. That's speed. That's just beating your guy. But as far as going up and getting the football in the red zone, it's going to open up one of two things. It's going to open up Travis Kelce more in the middle in the red zone, which he's always going to be there no matter what. But I also think it's going to give Xavier Worthy that chance to be the burner. What's happening is you have D-Hop running the post, but you have Worthy going outside of that, and now you got to put more pressure on the safeties in the corners. So I think this is a good move, great move, and like you said, I think it's going to be basically better than what people are going to, probably give it credit for.
Yeah, and I just to kind of piggyback off yours to give an example of what you mean by best receiver as far as hands go. Tyreek could run straight and then run slants and just be really fast. D-Hop is going to be without a doubt the best route runner that we've ever had in the Patrick and Andy era. The dude still gets open. I was reading the stats are he created elite separation not because of speed but because of his footwork and route running on 70% of his routes. That is an elite amount of number or an elite percentage on creating separation. So to just kind of give another point of what you meant by the best receiver, Tyreek's probably been positionally the best receiver we've ever had, but it's more when you break it down, pure hands catcher, route running, footwork, ability to get open in multiple ways. He's going to be the best one we've seen with Patrick. So just kind of to give a few more bullet points on what you meant by that is like just all around receiver, probably the best one Patty's had.
Yeah, and then on the flip of that, Patrick's obviously going to be the best quarterback that D-Hop's played with. So he's put up great numbers with the likes of like Mashab, Ryan Tannehill, Kyler Murray.
He had a little bit of Deshaun in his life. Good
Yeah,
Deshaun.
yeah, that's true. But I mean, let's be
Pre-massage
honest. It's
Deshaun,
still,
or I guess during massage Deshaun, but
yeah.
they had a couple years
So
together.
yeah, so I mean, either way, this is gonna be the best quarterback he's faced. Um, yeah, I don't really see it changing the Chiefs off, but the Chiefs offense needs a spark. I mean, let's call it what it is. They need a spark and they need it bad. Uh, I had told you earlier, I was like, really, you guys didn't need this trade that much because as long as you're playing the style of defense that you're playing, which we'll get into here later on, but at the same time, it's like it never hurts. You kind of like what you said, it never hurts to have a veteran piece, especially for an offense that's kind of surprisingly not good.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, the style we're playing right now, where we kind of just do enough passing and we just run the ball, don't beat ourselves, and let the defense kind of handle it for us. That's my favorite style to play. But at the same time, when we start getting into big time matchups and playoff football, we're going to have players who can make plays, plain and simple. And even at his age, it's not going to be the 80-yard speed bomb like you were talking about, but, a third and long, and we kind of just throw it up to him. He's someone who can make that play, which is still being a playmaker. So, not necessarily right now. Like we're still getting by, and it may not be huge, but there's going to come a time in those matchups and in the postseason where we're going to have a dude outside of Kels, outside of Worthy, who can run really fast. We're going to have a dude who can make a play, and that's this guy. So, and didn't give up a lot for him. So it's all around good deal. Good locker room presence, good veteran, great hands. I love it. But yeah, I don't know. We may not even see the true usage of D-Hop right away. We still might coast the way that we've been coasting and just do enough again to just not cost us the games. But there's going to be a play or two made at some point in this season and in the postseason where we're going to be like, oh, this is why Chiefs made this call. And it's all going to make sense.
Yeah, I think the red zone expands for the Chiefs now a little more than it did. So now I think anywhere from the 40 to the 30-ish yard line area going in, I think that opens up that much more because, again, you can hit a hop down the sideline or a jump ball. You have Trav middle or you have Worthy who you can get in multiple facets of jet sweep actions, bubble screens, because the hop will block. We do know that. He'll block. So, again, I think that expands the red zone. And again, any way the Chiefs can find a spark for their offense to get them back on track, I know their defense will definitely appreciate it. Not that the defense really cares right now. They're still undefeated. So, again, love the move. As a Broncos fan, it sucks, but at the same time, we got to realize that, and we'll talk about the Broncos and trading here shortly as well. But the Chiefs are in a Super Bowl window, so this move had to happen. You hear a lot in not just football, but every sport, championship window, right? So you see like the Nuggets in basketball right now. They have a championship window. As long as they have Nikola Jokic, boom, they're good. So again, Chiefs are in their Super Bowl window. I don't think they could have stand pat and not did anything. They had to make some kind of move, like you said, either MVS. I think I saw, and I don't know how much truth there was to it, but they offered the Rams something for Cooper Kupp, but the draft pick was a little too high for the Chiefs. And then the salary that the Rams were wanting the Chiefs to take was a little higher than the Chiefs were wanting. But again, it's not a bad backup plan just in case. So again, as long as your Super Bowl window's open, you can't sit still. You gotta realize there's an issue, and that issue is your offense. So again, this is an A+ move for Brett Veach again. It sucks, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I agree. I had the two names out there were those two, and I don't think they could afford to make a small move like the Kadarius Toney one again. Not to say that Chiefs are panicked or anything, but they needed a little more legitimate receiver help than that. So yeah, I once you saw Juju was also going to be hurt for a few weeks, you kind of knew that. Truth be told, I thought it was going to be Cup or D Hop. I did always think Cup was a little too expensive, just from a number standpoint. So um, I was texting a buddy earlier, and I'm like, this is the reason I picked D Hop up at the very it's the second move I made in fantasy, is because we knew the Titans were going to suck and that a championship team was going to pick D Hop at some point. So I'm glad it was the Chiefs. I've always been a D Hop guy. He doesn't really fit the mold that we're used to seeing, but it's always the mold of receiver I wish we would have. So from a fantasy standpoint, I hope it's awesome. But even as a Chiefs fan, like, I'm excited to just see us with a big receiver on the field for a change.
So that Chiefs-Niners game featured quite a few injuries as well.
My gosh.
Obviously Brandon Ayuk. We won't get too far into what he in his situation. Obviously Debo getting pneumonia. But let's talk, since we do talk about the Chiefs. Jalen Watson, emerging young player, fractured an ankle. Sunday's win over the Niners. He was supposed to get more imaging done. I haven't seen an update, but I think they did confirm everything. But again, we had been talking throughout about that number 2 corner, who was going to be the guy outside of McDuffie. Watson's been a pretty good guy, a pretty good defensive player for the Chiefs the last couple of years. Never want to see a young player get hurt, especially one who's starting to kind of figure it out a little more. And for a defense who is not struggling, and I don't see this move, honestly, I don't see this move really setting them back at all. But again, it's never fun when you lose a corner, especially when we had been talking about this being kind of the weakness. If there was a weakness, this was part of the weakness. But again, this is not one that I see setting anything back with the defense. The defense is going to be fine. It's more along the lines of, it's a bummer.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to see players get hurt, and then it just makes you a little thinner at a place you were already thin. It's kind of hard to read into it. We had some of the young players step up in the Niners game, but with all the injuries that they had on their receiving core, it was like our fifth string against their fifth string, so it was kind of hard to get a gauge. But they came out and they made plays. That's always a good sign. I don't even remember number 30's name. It was a hyphenated name. He had that pick on the sideline.
That was a huge pick. Huge pick.
That was a huge pick. But it was a dude I had never even heard of before, so that's also a good sign. But yeah, no, there's plenty of young players that have been stepping up. We had Cook, who broke his ankle last year, and we survived it. And you hate to see Watson go down, but just next man up. Plenty of young players there. This is your opportunity to kind of stand out and make a name for yourself and give yourself a chance to make a career, not as a backup anymore. So hope it doesn't cost us. This could be where Chiefs go out and make that small move for cornerback depth. We made the splash at receiver, so now we make a Kadarius Toney-like trade for the cornerback room. Not necessarily as a superstar or a starter, but just a little better depth. So, yeah, just a body out there, an able body, experienced body. There's always those veterans available at the deadline at every position. So, curious to see if we add there. I think it would benefit us to just get a veteran body there, just in case. But yeah, you hate to see people get hurt. Even Kittle walked away with an injury, foot sprain with him. I don't even want to say it was a violent game. It was just every injuries across the board everywhere, and the Chiefs and Niners were just filled with them. So yeah, hope everyone makes a full recovery. Ayuk, Debo, Kittle. I know we'll go in depth a little bit in the game, but also want to give a shout out to Dominic Pooney. I was reading a lot of national posts after the game that they had been impressed with him throughout the year, but after what he did against the Chiefs' interior D-line, which has been causing havoc all year, that he kind of held his own, and that he has a all-pro future ahead of him. I'm glad it didn't cost the Chiefs a win with him dominating. Luckily, that's not the guard position, can't really fully determine a matchup, but it was nice to see him getting a lot of love in what was honestly, even the highlights from the game was just all the injuries and stuff. So it was kind of good to just read something of football related coming out of the game, and it was Dominic Pooney just kind of holding his own and doing well.
I mean, we knew, and when we did our draft previews, we spent most time on, certain KU guys, and he was absolutely one that we spent a lot of time on, just because we knew he had a chance to be a high pick. You go that far, that many starts in college, and we watched him every week, and not give up a sack. Teams are going to notice that. They don't care what level of football you play in, but then you put on the game tape and you see, hey, this guy's got it. He did play Texas last year, and he did just fine against those guys who are NFL players now. So yeah, I agree. It's beautiful seeing that. And then obviously when we were watching Sunday, he was holding his own. I mean, they obviously double teamed a couple times, but you're not going to leave Pooney with Chris. I mean, I don't care. You're not going to leave Chris Jones with him one-on-one. But either way, good for him. I do want to touch on something before we move on to the game reviews. So this is funny because when we were doing fantasy running backs, we had talked about everyone was just all of a sudden Derrick Henry's just going to fall off the map. Derrick Henry's just non-existent anymore. So I have here top 5 rushing yards in the NFL so far. Number 1, Derrick Henry, 873. So 873. That's close to 1,000. Number 2, Jordan Mason, 667. Saquon Barkley, 658. Josh Jacobs, 540. Chuba Hubbard, 537. Can we please show Derrick Henry the love and respect that he's honestly earned throughout his whole career? Like, you could pay us to go on TV, and we'd at least still give Derrick Henry the love and respect going into the season, unlike some of these other guys.
Yeah, I don't even know what to say. I'm pretty sure I pounded the table during our preseason rankings and everything.
He is number 3. He is number 3 in fantasy football right now, points wise, with 160.5.
So he's the number 1 running back, number 3 overall. See, and I pounded the table for him, and everyone had him like borderline top 10, and I think I had him second or third in my preseason rankings, because I'm like, I don't know why you think this specimen of a man-child just all of a sudden fell off. Like, he's one of the he's like the Adrian Peterson. The cliff doesn't come to him at age 28, 29, 30 like some other running backs. His cliff comes at a later date, and I don't know why people thought it was now. He went to a better situation, a way better situation.
And they're still using him similar.
Yeah, and well, that's what I'm saying. They know how to use him. They use him properly. They aren't quite running him into the ground like Tennessee was. I still think he could use a little more carries with Baltimore. I mean, 4 carries and a half. Like, come on, get with it. But you saw that it's because they were going to use him 150 times in the second half as a closer, which makes sense. But yeah, I don't really know what to say, because I was somebody who didn't think he was done, who very much I was about to draft him, and then the last place dude in our league decided that he wanted to draft him. So I guess one other person thought the same thing, but yeah, I don't know what everyone's seeing. But when I watch Derrick Henry in these games, I'm not like, wow, he lost a step. I'm like, holy shit, I still don't want to tackle him.
Well, and he's not. There's that one he had Monday night, that 80-yard run, 81-yard run. Yeah, he probably does score a couple years ago, but
no, see, that's not even that corner was already like deep field though. Like, he just had to cut across the field. So I think that was more just it's not that he lost it. Like, that dude still reached 22 miles per hour on that run. Like, he still has that speed. It's just that corner where he was pre-positioned, had a good angle on it, and actually made the correct angle. But I don't watch Derrick Henry and think, wow, he's really close to being done. Like, not even a part of me it thinks that. So
there were a couple guys who tried throwing the shoulder at him, and he was just kind of still. It's just so there was the play. I don't remember what it was. I think it was a screen, and Antonio Winfield, instead of getting blocked, just literally turned his back and backed into him, and actually got a penalty thrown on him for an illegal block, because he was like, yeah, nah, Nah, I'm
Yeah,
good.
people don't
I'm
want
not.
to tackle that still. Like,
Yeah,
I have to make a business decision here. I want to keep playing the rest of the year. I don't want to get hurt making a tackle.
yeah. So we're gonna come back in a few weeks at the end of the season, and we're still gonna sit here and say Derrick Henry did what Derrick Henry usually does, barring anything serious. Hopefully not. I think the way that they're using him smart. Uh, Second half is where he gets the majority of it. Closer, he'll still get the touches in the first half. I think it's kind of game flow. And once the Ravens got down 10-0, it was over from there. Once all that happened, and the Bucks had no chance. And then you really get Derrick Henry going and and whatnot. So again, fun fact I wanted to throw out there. I saw that today, and I was just sitting there thinking, all those people who said Derrick Henry was going to fall off are absolutely wrong. So last thing, before we get into game breakdowns, I do want to talk and touch a little bit on the Denver trade market. So we had talked when the Chiefs made this move. Chiefs did it for a reason. Chiefs are in a Super Bowl window. Denver is absolutely not in a Super Bowl window at all. We're still probably 2, maybe 3 years away from being like, maybe. So here's kind of my thoughts and kind of what I wanted to talk about as far as Denver's trades go. I honestly don't want to see them make a splash trade. Like, yeah, you're borderline playoff, but is that really worth throwing a third, fourth, fifth round draft pick out there just to bring a rental player in just to maybe make the postseason? No, I think you still let the young guys get these reps. I know I've seen a few names thrown out there as far as like Evan Ingram, some of these others tight ends as possibility. I'd like to see them kind of just relax, keep developing. You're going to have way more cap space next year. You know, am I going to be upset if they go out and make a trade? No, probably not. Just me personally, what I would like to see is continue play the young players, continue to develop a rookie quarterback, keep developing your defense, getting them, you know, growing. Because I mean, there's a lot of pieces on defense that you need. Let's be honest. There's still pieces on defense that you need, and your defense is playing really well. So, kind of give us your thoughts. I mean, you watch a team, you're a fan of a team who has a Super Bowl window. So, expectations for the Chiefs fan base is, yeah, we need to make a move like this. Like, we have history we're trying to make this year. If this were a Chiefs going for maybe a first Super Bowl, you probably don't see this move. You probably, they're teetering, right? They're thinking, no, you're going for a three-peat. Denver's not. Denver's in playoff picture. So smart or not smart on them to stay kind of calm and not overreach.
Yeah, see, I think that's not even the right point of view to have for Denver's trade market. I agree on them not making trades, but I also don't agree with them staying pat. I think they should trade a lot of the veterans that they have to get those young players more PT. But I'm not also against them. Maybe not Evan Ingram, but what I can kind of compare it to when Cubs made the trade at the deadline for Isaac Paredes, it was not for this year. It was for the next 3 or 4 years when they think that they're going to be in that window. I think that's the only kind of move Denver should make as far as actually trading for somebody, is if it's kind of a youngish person or someone who can help contribute for the next 2 to 4 years. Not necessarily help you get in that wild card run right now, but to help you more long term. But you know how I am with all the teams who I don't think have a legitimate championship shot. I think that they should trade and get all the assets that they can. And that's where I think Denver should be. Right now, they're winning with a lot of their young guys. And because a lot of their young guys, now, I'm not sitting here and saying, like, trade all your players who are like 28 and over. No, I think trade a Cortland Sutton. You won a game with giving him 0 targets, which means you can win without him. You've been doing okay with Vele and Franklin and some of the other guys out there. Trade and get a second and third round pick to get more young talent. Trade a Garrett Bowles who you may or may not be able to sign or won't sign, whatever. Just trade some of the pieces like that just to get a few more assets to help build and progress the build a little bit quicker. Like, not trying to shit on Denver and being like, they're a shitty team now, they shouldn't try to win right now. But at the same time, I do think that they have a good foundation to where a wrong or right move can really set up your next few years. And to me, I think the right move is always getting assets. You get draft picks. Sean's able to get his guys in there. And I think that's kind of what's happening now. You're starting to see his kind of guys taking over. And that's why, at the very least, Denver has remained very competitive. So I think they should really just continue to try to do that. So I agree, should stay pat. They should trade off a couple of the assets, tradable assets that they have, build through the draft, get Sean's guys in there. So your next couple years, you really are starting to see that window really become more clear.
And the nice thing is Denver's not really ever known to be like super aggressive. They probably should have been a couple years ago with Tim Patrick, Cortland Sutton, to get those guys off. But they didn't. I don't know. It was weird. Those were just weird times. I think we're in better shape now. I think GM's going to be smart. Sean will be smart. Yeah, I mean, it's cool. It's awesome reading some of the names, but at the same time, it's like, why? Like, it doesn't help. Like, it doesn't. You're not helping anything for a rental player. You're gonna have a ton of money next year. Full draft capital should be back in place now that all the bad trades have been out and done and over with. Now you got the foundation partially there. Now start building it up. So again, would I be upset if I saw a couple trades for them going out and getting somebody? Probably not. But at the same time, it's like, are we kind of seeing the same thing here, or do you guys know something that we don't? So that's just kind of my thoughts on Denver's trade. I know I've been seeing more and more stuff out there about it, and it's kind of got me thinking a little bit.
And the fans get a little excited. Like, let's be honest, a majority of the fan base didn't expect to be sitting where you're sitting right now, with a legitimate like playoff opportunity. So as a fan, you're going to get a little excited. As a fan base, as part of their media or whoever, you're going to be a little more excited than you thought. And when you're a little more excited, you start jumping the gun and like, holy shit, maybe we can trade for a few pieces that takes us to that next tier. And as a fan, like, that's part of being a fan, though. You get excited, you play through these scenarios and whatnot. But you also got to try to look at it realistically. Especially if you were in the NFC, I might be like, dude, you guys should probably trade a couple pieces because you really are just battling like the Lions. And then you have a legit, like, after that, who knows? In the AFC, there's a little more of a gauntlet to where you need to be more realistic. Again, once you make the playoffs, anything can happen. So I don't know. That's where I think some people might be like, well, do what you can to get there because anything can happen. So I get it as like from that point of view, like you're sitting way better than you thought. Kind of like the Royals. You know how excited we were towards the trade deadline and stuff? Like, holy shit, like we're legitimately in this. Like, what are we going to do? It's kind of the same thing with Denver, like you're better than what you thought. You're kind of in it. So how do we handle this? And I think it's fair to kind of both sides of the fence here are completely understandable.
Yeah, and the Royals got guys that they can control for a few years now. So I mean, the Royals those were huge wins in what we were able to get at this trade deadline, and then the waiver wire pickups that we were able to get. But again, I'm like, unless it's T. Higgins that Denver throws a draft pick out there, he would be a future player. He would be a future piece. But obviously, that's just an example of
you guys aren't going to go trade for a 32-year-old whatever to try to.
You're not going to go get a Cooper Kupp. You're not going to go get. You're not going to trade for DeAndre Hopkins. Like that's just not a move you can afford to make because those guys are for now. They're not for tomorrow, right? Correct. So it's like, T. Higgins, a young receiver that you can throw a second-round draft pick out there because now, hey, he's going to be part of the future. He's a young guy, go get a young tight end, figure that part out. But yeah, no 30-plus-year-olds, not a chance. I don't want any first-round picks traded. I don't want any first. Like, there's a lot of pieces you need that you can really use that first-round draft pick on. So please don't get rid of it. And I don't think they would. They're not stupid. If they were,
no, yeah, and there's been so much talent coming out of the college level that you're almost having like the full first round of players anymore be Pro Bowl level players or really good. I mean, there's just so much talent coming out anymore, and that's why you're starting to see like even more like third, fourth, fifth, sixth at a higher rate being successful. So yeah, I don't T. Higgins might be worth a first round because that is a full-fledged, like, 5 to 7 year all-pro level player. But at the same time, like, these dudes are coming out now so talented that first round pick, I think, has even more value now than it ever has. Because even if you're sitting at 24, drafts are having the first 32 players are just like damn good. So I agree with you. Like, don't go selling your house now, kind of overreacting to the start you've had. Like, don't mortgage the future. Be smart. And I think Sean is. He always built really good rosters in New Orleans. I think the only thing they sucked at there was salary cap, but I'd like to think they have smarter people in Denver for that than they did there. But
that's one of the few people that Sean didn't get rid of when he got here. George Payton was lucky enough to keep his job, and George Wright, the assistant GM's obviously the money contract guru, outside of the Russell Wilson debacle, but that's not really on them. The nice thing is we're able to get the bulk of that this year, partial next year, so that's why our salary cap's going to go up, and you can start buying what you couldn't draft, right? So like just pieces to fill in. So again, as excited as I am this season, and I'd like to keep going. No big massive trades. I would throw Portland out there, the 49ers, for a 4th round pick. What else you could get? Javonte could be thrown out there. He's on a contract year coming up too. So yeah, there's pieces out there that you can dangle out there that teams will want, and teams will happily buy. So it'll be an interesting next couple of weeks. I think this is probably one of the busier trade markets that we've seen between the 3 receivers, and there's another small linebacker trade today, Jerome Baker for Ernest Jones. So those are the little ones, and those are the ones that can typically make the most noise. So I'll be excited to see how that one pans out. So let's do a fun little quick question here. The 3 receivers traded: Amari Cooper, Bills; DeAndre Hopkins, Chiefs; and Devontae Adams, Jets. Who's gonna, at the end of the season, who's gonna be the winner of this, and who brings more value to their team?
I think it's Amari Cooper, because Chiefs are still finding ways to win, and we'll use them well. But again, I don't think a whole lot's going to change outside of a few big plays here and there. But Josh Allen was struggling without kind of having that alpha dog. We already kind of saw Amari Cooper kind of benefit in Buffalo.
That was my favorite. They show him on that touchdown. He looks over at Keon Coleman like, "What the fuck am I supposed to do? Just catch touchdown, bro." He catches the touchdown. I was like, "Oh, that easy."
Yeah, and Amari Cooper's always been one of the better, just underrated receivers. Like, he's never been put in that elite class, but always just been really damn good. I think it's going to be better for that team than Stephon Diggs. You're going to get all the production without all the diva-ness, because that's never been Amari Cooper. He's always been happy when his team said he's on his winning, no matter his stat line. But I also think, for what you just said, he went to a team that had, Tupac Shakur, Keon Coleman, like some young dudes who could, again, like we said with D-Hop, some young dudes who could use a veteran like Cooper to really help progress them, mold them, show them what a pro is supposed to do, act like, be. I don't know if it was enough to put the Bills kind of over the top, but I think that's a move that absolutely not even had to be made. Like, when I saw it, I just knew it was a match made in heaven. An elite type of receiver. He's not fast. He's not super, like, big or anything, but catches everything. He high points a ball. He catches with his hands. Just a perfect person for Josh Allen. I think that officially made their offense whole. So I don't even think it's close. I think it's Amari Cooper by a landslide.
Yeah, no, I do agree with that. I do think his drop rate's too high, and I think that's going to come back, but I think they work on it a little bit.
Well, and I think that was a Browns / Deshaun Watson. I will say it seemed like Cooper had a little checked out of Cleveland, and let's be honest, like, who wouldn't be?
Right.
Most good receivers, when you get the target share that he's always gotten, your drops are always going to be kind of elevated. I think some of them are unfair when a lot of them probably aren't very catchable to begin with. But he's someone who can get his hands on so much that even some other people who wouldn't even be able to touch him, he does, but doesn't bring him in. So check it up to a drop. I don't know. It's a move that the Bills had to make. There's no downside to it. I don't even know what his contract is like, but I don't know if he's a free agent after this year or what. But Bills are going to keep him for a long time, just because that is a perfect match.
Yeah, it's cheap. I think the Browns converted a lot of it to signing bonus, so it's not going to cost the Bills much. So I do think that they'll probably work something out at the end of the season as well. So let's take a few minutes here and break down. Obviously, neither one of the Chiefs or Broncos struggled last week in their games. Because you can see the Chiefs won 28-18. Chiefs didn't struggle. Don't let the score fool you. Chiefs didn't struggle. Their offense was kind of eh. Patrick made a couple eh. And I think that kind of realized that, hey, we probably should take this receiver thing a little more serious. Because, again, as the season progresses and we get towards the playoffs, Chiefs are going to start taking a little tougher shots from teams. You can do stupid shit against the Raiders. You can do stupid shit against some of the other competition you're playing. But again, we've all watched enough playoff football to know it's a lot different. So they made this move now because they know it is truly a concern. And for people who sit there are out there saying, we're not worried about the Chiefs offense, you're lying to yourselves, because it does become a whole different game when the playoffs roll around. Yes, they do have the experience, but who's he going to throw to in the playoffs? You still have to have people to throw to. So again, this wasn't it. This wasn't a struggle as far as the game itself goes. Obviously, outside of the offense, Pat only threw for 154 and had 2 interceptions. The difference is the 39 carries for 184 as a team.
Hell yeah.
Kareem Hunt led the way, 22 carries, 78 yards, only a 3.5 average, but hey, that's good. That's keeping it ahead. Pat 5 for 39, 7.8, a touchdown. Cole Hardman obviously had that jet sweep, I believe. 2 carries, 38 yards. So again, they had the run game going. Again, that's huge. That helps. Some of those runs obviously are quarterbacks, so you'd like to see a massive fucking truck stick in the end zone too. Let's not forget about the truck stick he put on Mustafa. I'm just going through looking. Brock Purdy starting to look worse and worse, honestly. He had a good game against the Seahawks, but when you're starting to put him up against some of these other legit teams, dude, 17 of 31, 212, 3 interceptions. And has a team 21 carries for 101 yards. So again, not that much of a struggle. Chiefs defense obviously comes up huge. You're the Chiefs guy here. Kind of give us your thoughts and what your thoughts are after the game.
Yeah, and just want to point out to not completely shit on Brock Purdy, but he's always been kind of known and labeled as kind of the system quarterback, and that's not a bad thing. You need to be in the right system to be your best self. But the system he's in is knowing where to go with the ball to your playmakers, and when you literally have none of those playmakers out there, it does become kind of hard. Literally down your top 3 receivers, because Jennings also wasn't there. CMC being out, again, that's kind of eliminated the running back position in the passing game, and he's lethal in the passing game, so that's a lot bigger than just any other ho-hum running back being gone. But it's hard in that system when it's built around players making plays and those players not being there to make them. So it's not all on Brock. You do have to figure out a way to work with what you have.
Yep.
And that's on Shanahan a little bit too. You're an offensive guru, try to help the quarterback out as much as you can. But I still think Brock's a great quarterback, but he's got to have his players around him to really be the best version of himself. And it's no different than Patty. Patty's had a dog shit year if you just look at numbers and actual performance and throws. But it's because he's also down Rice, Hollywood Brown, kind of a not full usage Travis Kelce. Juju had that one big game, ran more in that one game than he has in the last 2 years, so that's probably why his hamstring fucking blew up. But at the same time, like, you still have to find ways to win. So as a Chiefs standpoint, I'm not one of the I'm not worried about the offense because I don't think they've unleashed yet. I'm sticking with they're kind of just doing enough to stay healthy, to win games. I still think the final 5 to 7 weeks of the season, you're really going to start seeing kind of what our defenses used to do. Like when you mentioned other episodes where they figured it out the first 10 to 12 weeks and then they kind of fucking just figured it out and turned it up. Well, I think the roles have reversed. We're letting our defense do their thing all year and the offense is going to turn up. And I think this move is a sign of that. Get him acclimated for a few weeks and then the final quarter of the season, we're just going to hit stride. Because let's be honest, Andy Reid has never been somebody who's ran the ball 39 times in a game. Plain and simple. Ever. I mean, I'm sure we could go back and we'd find one, but it's a rarity, okay? So I'm not worried yet. You know, if we're week 14 and we still kind of look the same, then my tone might be different. But right now, I think that's what we're doing. So I think the game looked about how I thought. Defense held it for us. Offense didn't cost it for us. Young players got some PT. Honestly, I don't even want to review much because I just want to get to the upcoming matchup because I'm fucking hyped about it and have a lot to say. So honestly, like, I don't know. Glad we beat Niners. Glad they lost their Super Bowl to us this year. Go Chiefs.
Christian Roland Wallace, who had the
That's
interception.
that guy. Yeah, I don't know who it is. Go
and
him.
Then Justin Reed had an interception as well. And I didn't catch who had the third one.
Hicks.
That's right. So again, I mean, I agree. I hope not with the offense trying to, lull everyone to sleep until postseason rolls around. I just think that's kind of just how the Chiefs are going to do this season. I mean,
we want to be healthy. Yeah, we want to be healthy. That's the number one objective right now.
I mean, injuries are injuries, but at the same time, you guys have a defense, so you can do a little extra on offense, or maybe take more of a chance, essentially, that some teams wouldn't take, just because they don't have a defense that they can lean on, like the Chiefs. So we'll get to the Chiefs next game here in a second. But we won't spend too much time on Denver's either. 33-10 over the Saints.
Ass beaten.
Similar to, Bo only throws for 164 yards, doesn't take a sack, doesn't throw an interception, has 10 carries, 75 yards. Javonte, 14 carries, 88 yards as a team. We had 35 carries for 225 yards. Troy Franklin led the team, 5 catches, 50 yards. We sacked the poor quarterback 6 times. So Denver's defense is getting after it as far as sacks and pressures go. But again, watch the game and understand that the Saints just aren't very good.
Yeah, I kept saying that when we were watching. I'm like, something seems off with the Saints. Like, I'm not trying to be rude to Denver, but like something seems off with the Saints for real.
Yeah, I mean, but at the time, so now this is a game Denver would have probably lost before, right? So now you're starting to slowly see a little bit of a shift of, one, Sean Payton's back home, so the game means a little extra. But two, you're just taking on a not so hot team or good team. Similar to what you did with the Raiders a couple weeks ago. Not a very good team, but you're winning the games you should win. Now the next step is squeeze out a win that maybe no one expects you to. So when you see the Ravens Chiefs coming,
please Baltimore, please.
So they held Alvin Kamara 7 carries, 10 yards, but he had 6 catches for 14 yards. They just didn't use Kamara very well, how they should. Congrats to him on getting a contract extension, though. Always been a big Kamara fan. Denver's defense is something that I do enjoy watching, how aggressive they are. It will be interesting, though. They play the Panthers this weekend, and we won't dive too far into the Baltimore Chiefs game back-to-back that Denver has coming up. But it will be interesting to see how maybe they adjust their pressures against 2 elite quarterbacks that aren't Spencer Rattler, that aren't Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew. So that is something that I'm looking forward to in a couple weeks. Let's get into the Chiefs first. Raiders week. We had a beautiful, beautiful chance a couple weeks ago when Denver played the Raiders. It was Fuck Raider week. It's a little more with the Chiefs. Um, just because the Raiders, for some weird reason, keep poking at the Chiefs. So again, I'm not quite sure, but the whole off-season, preseason training camp, bringing Kermit the Frog, making fun of him, to saying the blueprint's out. They have the blueprint, and let's be honest, the first few weeks of the season, the Raiders are borderline shit show. Let's call it what it is. One of the worst ran franchises in the NFL. For a team that was pretty good in the 80s and 90s, they have absolutely been nothing since.
Yeah, and it's don't get me like they play hard. They play hard for their coach. They give effort. I think this week might be the first week where you start seeing Chiefs offense trying to hit stride. I think we make this D-Hop trade. I think he's going to be a huge part of it, barring he's healthy enough and stuff. But I knew this game was going to be a business for the Chiefs, just for the simple fact that when they asked Patrick about Kermit the Frog, he just said it'll be handled. I'm not even trying to be biased here. I know I'm a Chiefs fan. But when somebody at the level of like Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Peyton Manning, when their answer to something like that is it'll be taken care of, you can almost bet your house that shit will be taken care of. I don't know why. Like, I know it's a fun rivalry and you talk shit, like, but at the same time, like, why Raiders? Why? Like, I don't get it. Like, you had already rattled some feathers in the Chiefs locker room by saying a blueprint's out. Like, one of your few wins was the Chiefs. Like, congratulations. Like, we're happy for you, but we also won the Super Bowl in your locker room. So, eat shit. But then you come out and you start like mocking Patrick Mahomes. Like, I don't understand your mindset. Like, go after someone else if you want, but like, you went after the one dude the entire city, team, everyone is going to full-fledged rally around. I think this might be the first game you see a full, complete Chiefs team. I think Patrick, Travis, and Andy have already discussed that they won't slow down the scoring. You know, some of the bad injuries in the Baltimore Ravens and Bucks game in garbage time may change that a little bit. Again, it
As
is
it should.
just the Raiders. We don't want to lose people out of pettiness, but I still think the Raiders are so bad that when we have Justin Watson and Carson Wentz in the third quarter because the game's over, we're still going to be throwing bombs and running up the score. So this is going to be a really good time for some of the backups to get a lot of good PT and quality time in just to build that depth. But just the amount of just border or like, I don't know, just the like bulletin board material that the Raiders have given the Chiefs who don't even need it. Like, they don't need that to come out and probably just shit stomp you, but you gave it to them anyway. Not gonna lie, I'm super excited. But at the same time, if somehow this backfires and we do lose, I'll probably fucking cry. Not because I'm super sad, but because I'm so mad. And I don't get worked up for regular season games much anymore. Like, I watch them, I'm a fan, ho hum. I know we have the postseason to look forward to. But I'm hyped for this weekend. And I really just don't want it to be a letdown. We were talking about if the Broncos lose to the Panthers, what'd that do? Well, it's the same shit if the Chiefs find a way to fuck this all up. But either way, I'm hyped. If the Raiders end up winning, I may not be on next week. Just a fair warning. No, I can take it. I can dish it. I can take it. But I won't be happy about it.
There's two things for the Chiefs game. The Chiefs don't take the Raiders serious at all. They'll go out and they'll run a merry-go-round play. They'll go out and do all kinds of sort of trickery. So was the loss last year embarrassing to the Chiefs, to the Raiders? Yes. But the Chiefs also weren't playing their best at that time. Like you said, Super Bowl was in the Raiders locker room. I'm sure there was a lot of tea bags put on lockers. I'm sure there was a lot of piss going all over the place. I'm sure the Chiefs had fun in that locker room. It's basically their locker room because Raiders don't have home fans.
This is the Raiders. This is the Raiders Super Bowl. It's not the Chiefs. But I think the only reason it might be the Chiefs is because you talk shit on the wrong person.
Yeah. So then that goes to the only serious part of this is don't let Max Crosby beat you. If you keep Max Crosby at arm's length, this defense is going to be fine. Just don't let Max Crosby be able to alter a game. He's the one player on their team, on that defense, that still gives a fuck. And I know he doesn't want to play there, but he's not a guy who's going to quit. He works too hard to do that. He has pride. He has the most pride on that team. So again, don't let him beat you. Don't let him alter the game. You're fine. You're good. I think that's the only thing that needs to be said about that game. Now, we're going to do the same thing with the Broncos. Broncos are playing the Panthers. We're not going to spend too much time on this. Panthers one win this year against the Raiders. So just wanted to throw that out there in case anyone didn't know. And it wasn't just a win. They absolutely destroyed the Raiders. 36-22. So I'm just going to throw that out there again. Andy Dalton had like 350 yards thrown on him. But either way, this is a game that scares me. Denver has not earned that right to assume we're going to win. Yes, the 10-point favorite is a beautiful thing. Don't let Chuba Hubbard beat you. Find a way to tackle him. Chuba is going to be Bryce Young's best friend. Contain him. Be sound. Blitz the shit out of Bryce Young. Make him force the throws. You're going to be fine. I'd like to see the run game, a.k.a. not Bo Nix, get worked with. I'd like to see Bo use this as a little practice preseason type thing. Work on your footwork. His footwork was god-awful in the Saints game. We understand that. But it wasn't bad enough to where we're going to sit here and talk about it all night. We'll worry about that when they actually have a good enough game or against a worthy opponent. Those are the things that I want to see. You should be able to win this. Chiefs should be able to win by 20+. Denver should be able to win by 20+. We should come back on here next week happy as fuck, knowing, hey, Denver's going 5-3 on the road to Baltimore. Chiefs have a good matchup with the not so healthy Bucs team now. So, again,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I think you nailed it. I think you gave the Raiders defense, but you mentioned it with the Panthers. The two players that the Chiefs Broncos can't let beat them is Chuba Hubbard. You were spot on with that. And then for the Chiefs, it's Brock Bowers. We know we've had our issues covering tight ends.
Yep.
And as much as I hate the Raiders, I do respect Max Crosby, and I won't deny the talent that Brock Bowers has displayed. So I think, so I think the two players that, if you can maybe not eliminate, because that sounds very like violent, but if you can just like kind of limit the damage that Chuba does and Brock Bowers does, that'll go a long way. So I think you were spot on with Chuba. Also a very undervalued and appreciated guy in the league this year, but you're not wrong. We should be able to come on next week and just enjoy the weekend of football that we think is on tap, that we hope that should be.
It would be us, KU K-State weekend. Unfortunately, we were hoping this was going to be a huge college game day game before the season. Unfortunately, this should be easily K-State's game. Even though the offense looked good last week, it's still K-State. Unfortunately, we got to wait another year. So hopefully next year we can be in a better mood to talk about KU football, but that's all we're going to drop on that. Let's talk about sleepers and busts. So last week, your sleeper, George Kittle's. Your bust, Devon Achane. We'll let you have it.
Yeah, Kittle barely got above his projection, but I was on here ranting about him getting a 30 spot. So we're not going to chalk that up as a win for me. I mean, he still had a really good fantasy day, better than projections, but kind of went under what I thought he was going to have. So took an L on that one. Achane, he had an okay day. I think he got to just 10 fantasy points, but it was still under what he was projecting. So we've been counting that for wins for us all year with our bust. They should be getting Tua back, so that offense should start humming again. But for this week, seems to be every week for me. I'm just going 1-1.
So mine wasn't much better. Bucky Irving was my sleeper. And Lamar Jackson was my bust, so we're not even going to talk about it. This week, my sleeper is going to be Mark Andrews. I do think that him and Lamar are starting to kind of figure that part out. I like to think the Bucs weren't that bad on defense the other night, but they were leaving Mark wide open. But I do still like the matchup they have coming up. So I like Mark Andrews to get over his projected like 9 points. And then the bust of the week, I'm going to go with Saquon. I think last week was beautiful for him. Absolutely pounded his former team. I think this week's going to be a letdown. I think it's going to be, playing the Bengals. So, you never know with the Bengals, but I just think the second game after an emotional game, he can say it wasn't all what it was, but we know deep down it was, or he wouldn't have tried so hard to make that happen. I did like at the end of the game when they asked him if he wanted to go for the records, and he gave his teammates the shot instead to get the young guys some love. I do respect that. I just don't want you to do it very good this week. And I think probably a part of this has to do with the fact that he absolutely beat my ass last week in fantasy football. So maybe this is a little bit, a little payback, right? So those are my sleeper and bust picks of the week. Do you have anything else before we hop off of here?
Yeah, I'd like to give my sleeper and bust picks.
Oh, we'll give your sleeper and bust picks.
No, I think my bust, I'm going to go Alvin Kamara. I just don't like where they're at right now as an offense. They play the Chargers, who are better defensively than people probably think. I know after the week Kamara had, it might be trying to force feed him a little bit, so it could backfire, but I like the Chargers defense enough to think that he won't be able to just run shop. Again, I love Kamara as a player. Don't get me wrong. Extremely talented, one of the best, but that offense and the Saints just seem a little off right now. And
the
I
Chargers
think that
coming off a
continues.
bad loss.
Yeah, and so I think one more that at least continues for another week with them. And then my sleeper pick's going to be Jerry Jeudy.
Jameis.
Yeah, that's really what it's based on,
Jameis.
dude. I'm not saying I'd want Jameis to be the quarterback of my franchise, but the dude can throw a football, and he's gonna throw it, whether he should or shouldn't. He's gonna throw it. Judy's kind of the last man standing there to throw to, as far as like
And he's their
outside
best
weapons.
route runner. He's a good route runner.
So I think the volume will be there. He's still projected in the like 10 or 11 range in standard and PPR leagues. So I actually think he gets over that just because Jameis, I mean, they're going to come out chucking. I think they'll be able to establish the run game a little bit more with Chubb as he gets integrated more, which will open up some play action bombs and kind of crossers for Jeudy. Whether it's open or not, Winston will throw it. So the opportunities will be there. So I'm going to go bust Kamara, sleeper Jeudy, which I never thought I would do.
I picked Jerry Jeudy earlier in the season. Jerry's been on here twice, bro.
Yeah, well, now he has a quarterback who can throw a football at least. So I still don't think it'll be a pretty game for the Browns because, again, it's not Jameis isn't a franchise quarterback, but he throws the football. And he has a good arm, but still going to be ugly for the Browns. But I think from a fantasy standpoint, if I had Jeudy, I'd be throwing him in this week.
Absolutely. That's going to wrap up this week. Thank you to all of our new followers, our new subscribers. Tons of listens and subscriptions over the last week or so. Please continue to share this with your friends and your groups. Come find us on Instagram at Shovick Sports. And then find us on Apple, Spotify, and iHeart. We're slacking on the videos. We'll get back on those this weekend. So again, thank you to everyone who continues to listen to us. And we love your feedback and your comments on Instagram. It's been fantastic. So we look forward to continuing this and talking to you guys next week.